Hey guys, it's Doolin and this is Tablenauts, and I have a very quick video for you competitive players out there who enjoy the spooky season. Whether it's just a party of 2 or a whole party of 8, this spooky season I have you covered with some baller game recommendations. First up is going to be a game that is for 2 to 5 players, and every single spooky season this is going to get played at my house with my wife and maybe a few others if they're interested, but especially with us two, and that is Die of the Dead. Maybe you're not into like horror style art and you're looking for maybe more spooky but cute art. This is your game. I can't recommend it enough. The art is incredible, but on top of that, the game to boot is just amazing. I love the way that the dice are manipulated in these little decorative coffin boxes that you'll shake up and move across the board, selecting actions that will pick that specific coffin box. I think my favorite thing about it is the race up this cardboard ladder piece that you're going to build, and every single time you place your dice on it, not only will you get the choice of one of the token piece that will help you along the way to score even more points, but also you'll be one step closer to the very, very top, and the first person to reach there actually wins the game. The 2-player variant is good. It has a ghost player that will be playing as that third player to help add some variability to the game, but on top of that, I think that this game is maybe best at 3. 4 is good as well. I've never played this game at 5, but I can recommend this at least at 2, 3, and 4. Next up is a game that isn't out yet, but the Kickstarter is getting released very soon, and I just couldn't not talk about it because it is incredibly fun. I don't see anyone talking about this game, and it is perfect for the spooky season, and that is Dreadful Meadows. This game, again, not really into the horror theme yet. We'll get to some of those style of games, but this is a very cute Halloween style game where you play a monster that is going to be farming candy. In this game, you're going to be farming candy that you can use as money to purchase more plots that will get you even more candy as you activate the plots around it, or you can use that candy to fulfill the orders that you're going to be drawing throughout the game to score victory points. This game is interesting because it's a mishmash of a lot of different mechanics like tile placement, economic resource management. It also has a bit of drafting. There's also quite a bit of engine building. If you want to win this game, you gotta be really good at maximizing the amount of income that you're gonna score on a turn when you place a sprite down to produce. I do really find this game to be one that I'm planning on keeping for a long time, and I love the theme, I love the art, the production of this game is incredible. I really hope once the Kickstarter gets a little bit closer, we'll start to hear more buzz about this game from other creators, but just know this was sent to us and it is still only a sample copy, but I find it to be incredibly well produced already, and I think if you back this, you're gonna be pleased with the outcome of this game. On top of that, if you are a solo gamer, this has an excellent solo mode that I've enjoyed. It even has scenario-based solo plays. I think that is always a great addition to a game. But again, Dreadful Meadows, another game that I recommend at least for not this spooky season, but hopefully by next spooky season you'll get your copy. Third is a game that continually finds its way at least once a month to my table, and this can be played at 1 player, which I've yet to do. I should probably do that at some point, all the way up to 8 players. I know that Max has already talked a lot about this at least maybe a year and a half ago, but we need to keep talking about how great this game is. You need to get your hands on a copy, and that is Awkward Guests. This game I have played many times at just 2 player, and while that might be one of the weirdest ways to play because you're not seeing a whole lot of different cards, we're all pretty much dealing with the same information, it is still a blast to break out one night just because of the deduction that goes into play here. I've also played this game at 4 player, at 6 player, and I think once at 7 players as well, all of which were a blast. And if I could recommend maybe a player count for this, it would be like that 4 to 5 player range. In this game, you're gonna be using cards, just like in Clue, to discover truths about what's happening. Instead of like in Clue, where you can just eliminate suspects and eliminate weapons cards and eliminate places because they're in your hand, this is a little more realistic, maybe. in the information that it gives you. Instead of just saying X person didn't do it, it might say these specific people never passed through this room. Nobody passed through the ballroom, which means that you could eliminate every weapon that was in the ballroom. They might say X person claims to be with this person at the time of the murder. That would give that character an alibi if they aren't the murderer and are trying to lie. Later on, you might find out that the other person claims they were with that person as well. Normally, that means that they're cleared. They're each other's alibi, unless, because this game has this, they're covering for each other. Meaning one of them is the murderer, which you'll have to prove somehow with other information, and the other one is a conspirer that is also mad at Mr. Walton for some reason. Instead of discovering a place, the places are used to help you discover how players moved around the map, whether or not they even had access to specific rooms and maybe they're lying about going to them. Every single time you go around the table and people get new information, you slowly see everybody go, all because they think they have blown this case wide open until they plug the information into the app and get the wah wah symbol, meaning they didn't get it right. And that's another beautiful thing about this game, is that instead of just being eliminated from the game when you're wrong, like in Clue, with the app, you can keep playing. You just will, for one whole round, not to get to guess. You can choose your own difficulty, meaning that it goes from very easy, which would be something that you could play with kids, all the way to impossible mode, which I have yet to play because even medium to hard difficulty is a bit much for me. So that's my third recommendation, and it is Awkward Guests. Number 4 is a semi-co-op game, where at the beginning of the game, you all get your personal objectives and you win the game if you fulfill it, but some people might work perfectly well with you. Others might want to murder you, and that be their only objective other than to survive. And of course, I'm talking about the amazing top 20 in my mind game of all time, Nemesis. You might be thinking, okay, Aliens, is it really a spooky game? I can't tell you a game where I've been more terrified playing it. As you go through the spaceship and you realize you're not alone and there are other aliens that are listening for your footsteps, and every time you turn over a piece it might be infested with the Queen or some other dangerous alien. This game perfectly captures the movie Alien, where this group of survivors start off kind of working together, and in reality there's one or two of them that have their own agenda. The beauty of this game, though, and I love it so much, is that at the end of the game, we could all reveal our cards and find out we could have absolutely worked together this whole time and trusted one another. But because of the variety that is the objective cards, none of us do. In fact, we can all have different points at which we end our game. At any point in the game, if I've fulfilled my objective, can I hop in an activated escape pod and leave and say, see you suckers, you're gonna have to deal with this on your own. One might want to wait and let somebody else on their escape pod, but actually you might not want to, because if somebody is on your escape pod with you and they also have been bitten previously and have a possible infection card with them, at the end of the game we'll all check the infection cards that we have to discover whether or not we were infected. And if you're on an escape pod with a buddy and that person is infected and you're not, guess what? You lose. It's horrifying. And on top of that, if you are a group that does not mind a bit of backstabbing and some tense, difficult decisions of do I help, do I not, this is a banger of a choice for your horror-themed October game night. This next game is a game that is completely competitive with a twist. There is one player who is actively working against everyone else every single time you play, whereas everyone else is playing a bit of a cooperative game. So it's kind of both cooperative and competitive, but because there is still one versus many, I consider that competitive. It plays 2 to 8 players. It is the competitive version of the classic Mysterium, and I am of course talking about the game Obscurio. In this game, players act as these trapped humans inside of a mansion trying to escape. The only problem is they have no idea how to get out of this maze of a mansion. Each hallway will present a certain amount of doors that the grimoire player who plays this book that the players are holding will use these cards that are just like the art in Detective Club or Dixit or Mysterium, and they will try to communicate to the players which of the doors they should go through. Playing these cards, the grimoire player will also have these little pointers that they will use to point at specific things on the cards that they're playing to all of the players. This is exactly played like Mysterium. However, the beauty of this game is that the player who is the traitor will actually get to choose some added cards to throw into the choices in order to throw off the players in terms of what they should do next. This game is tense and difficult at times because there's a sand timer that gets flipped as the players are looking and trying to decide on which door is the correct answer. And every player has to play their pieces, including the person who is the sneaky traitor, will have to play their pieces before that sand timer is stopped. For every wrong choice, including the traitor's choice, and for every time that the time turner was flipped, you lose some points. A finite number of resources that you have in order to get to the final door. As a traitor, you'll definitely need to be careful though, because at different points throughout the game, after a certain number of those points were lost, the group can take a vote and decide to kick one of the people out because they are all suspicious of them because they keep taking up too much time, or they keep consistently pointing the group to the wrong answers. The players will also need to be very careful though, because if they are wrong about their choice of a specific player, they'll lose extra points that put them on a path of pretty much losing every single time. So I think this game has some great ideas, and as far as the Libelud special that is one player playing cards silently trying to point players to other things, this is one of my favorites. In fact, it might be my favorite from them in terms of using those mechanics. Overall, it has a very haunted and spooky feel, and I think that this game would work great, especially at those higher player counts. Lastly, for you guys, I have a game that used to be my #1 favorite game of all time for quite some time, especially at the beginning of my board game hobby loving. In this game, just like Nemesis, there is a chance that everyone can actually spend the whole game working together, but by nature of the objective cards and the possibility of a traitor, most people spend the game not trusting each other. And of course, I'm talking about Dead of Winter. In this game, you play a group of humans trying to survive the zombie apocalypse. And depending on your specific card that you chose for your campaign, you will have to fulfill specific objectives in order to finish the game, or maybe it's just survive a number of days. Either way, on top of that, every player will be dealt a secret objective card that they will need to fulfill by the end of the game. Some of them might include you need to find a specific number of weapons, or you might need to hoard a specific type of medicine, or maybe it's just that you have to collect a specific number of survivors. Either way, a player does not get to be a part of the winning team, even if the public objective was fulfilled, unless they also have fulfilled their private objective. On top of that, at the very beginning of the game, you will shuffle in a traitor card that will be however many players there are plus the traitor card, meaning you would need a perfect shuffle and pass around the table with the one card being left out to be the traitor card for no one to be actively playing against the rest of the players. This player has a minor objective, but their main objective is to make sure the public objective does not get finished. In a game where you're moving around a map and collecting resources and defeating zombies, it might seem a bit difficult to understand how to play as a traitor in this style of game without really giving yourself away. But the beauty of this game is that at the end of every single round, you will need to have a certain amount of food that is put in the food storage, as well as a certain amount of a specific type of card that changes each round to fulfill a public objective and to keep something bad from happening. In order to do this though, players actually play into these piles quietly and without showing any of the other players what they're putting in them. What that means is that as the traitor, I can say, I'm putting in 3 food to the food supply. and I put garbage in there. Maybe there's a group of raiders that are demanding that we give them fuel, or they're going to do something horrible to our game state. I can tell the rest of the players as the trader, I'm putting in fuel, but really I'm actually putting in food that could have been used for our food supply. Then at the end of the round, think resistance style, where you take these piles, shuffle them, and then reveal, meaning that you can remember who it was that contributed, but you're not sure about whose cards were played when. And just like Obscurio, at any point in Dead of Winter can we call a vote saying, yeah, you're definitely the traitor, meaning that they're kicked out of the Combine, but at that point, you actually aren't out of the game entirely, and I love the thematics of this. You get rid of the objective card that you drew at the beginning of the game and instead draw a card from this group of exile objectives. Your players that you had no longer can go to the main hub anymore to contribute to anything. However, you have your own group of private objectives now that some of them can be traitorous, meaning that you want to get revenge on the group that kicked you out, or some of them are just you want to find a new place to live, meaning that you need to hunker down somewhere along on the board and make sure that you have a certain number of supplies. I love the thematics of this game, and I can't tell you enough how much this feels not only like a horror game, but if you are into The Walking Dead or any like zombie film series, this game is pretty much a must try for you. Well guys, that is it for our series on competitive horror-themed games for Spooky Month. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider liking and subscribing. It really does help. And on top of that, join our Discord where you can go and give us recommendations for games we should try, or even share pictures of your game nights with us. Beyond all that, I hope that you have a great spooky season and you enjoyed this video. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.